Last video we have already covered what are methods and why do we need methods. This video focuses on the implementation of the methods in Java, that is the how part. How do we create methods and use them? So let's get started. I'm going to explain the usage of methods, creation and execution using BlueJ, but at the end the same things I will also show using Eclipse. Now to create a methods, we know that a method has a name. So let's say my method is going to display a message, that is a welcome message. Now to display a welcome message, I'll just have a method called as greet. We understood that if we want to create methods, it has to have a name. So my method name is greet. Now methods are incomplete if they don't have open and close round bracket followed by open and close curly brace to specify the body of the method. Remember, the round brackets, the parameters are optional. So it depends whether you want to pass parameters or not. So then the first type of method that we are going to create is a method that takes no parameters and has no return type. So what do you mean when I say no return type? Means a function returns nothing. In that case, it is void. This is mandatory. So if your function doesn't returns anything, you have to at least specify void. Now what this function is going to do is it is just going to print a welcome message. So maybe say welcome and guest. Now how do you call this method? This method has a name called as greet. So I write the method name. Now because it's a method, it is followed by open and close round bracket and then a semicolon. So the greet is a method being called by which method? That is the main. So the main is called as a calling method. So main is calling greet. How does it calls? By just saying greet followed by open and close round bracket. If I compile and I execute, so just remember that when you create methods and you are calling, just follow these steps. These things will be clear in the upcoming videos. So I say new, fine. On this red box, say right click and can you say main? Click on this. Can you see the output welcome guest? So what happened is when you say greet, the call from here goes to the greet. It calls this method, prints the message, comes back to the main. So in case I write a print statement here and I say suppose main starts. I write a print statement over here and I say suppose main ends and let me put a breakpoint. So you'll understand. So let me compile and let me put a breakpoint and let's run. So I'll say new, again enter, right click, void main, and now you can see here the green part is the one that's highlighted. I'll say step into, so it goes and can you see it prints the output, that is main starts. I again say step into, understand the flow, how the functions are called. Can you see it goes inside the greet function, it prints the message welcome guest. The function body completes. Can you see the green bar? It comes back and now it prints main ends and now my main function block completes and my function terminates. Now let me remove the breakpoint. If I say this and let me execute it, I'll say compile and now if you would notice again the same steps, right click, void main, and because I had written 1, 2, 3, 4 times greet, it prints welcome guest 4 times. It doesn't have to be called in a sequence. I can even say greet and then I can even make 2 greet statements later on and maybe I'll say main in between and then I can put a message in the end saying main ends. Remember, these SOP statements aren't mandatory. I'm just writing so you understand how the flow is going. I compile again. Let me stop this. So you would see main starts, 2 times greet called, main in between, again 2 times greet called, and then main ends. So again the same steps, right click, main, can you see main starts, welcome guest twice, then main in between, again the welcome guest twice and the main ends. So it becomes very easier, you write it once and you can call it n number of times. Now this is the one way that you can write the methods. The another way is that there can be a method that yes takes parameter but has no return type. So I'll say greet with name. So how is it, instead of welcome guest, I'm able to display welcome and the name. So if it's Shalini, it prints welcome Shalini. If it's Samir, it prints welcome Samir. If it's Roy, it should print welcome Roy. That means this function now needs a value. That value is passed as a parameter, and because name has to be of type string, I say a variable of type string. Now how do I call this greet function is, let me delete all this. This was just to make you understand. I can say the function name, that is greet with name, followed by open and close round bracket, and here I have to pass a string value because this variable is of type string. So I can say Shalini. Now if I compile and if you see I execute, again the same steps, I say main, you get welcome guest, that was from first greet. Welcome Shalini is from the greet with name function. If you don't want to pass Shalini, if you want to take the user input, you can do that as well. So I can do this, and then instead of just passing a constant every time, I can greet depending on what is the name that is entered. So now if I compile and if I execute, you would see it waits for the user input. Now I type in over here Roy. Can you see it prints welcome Roy and welcome Shalini because the second method passes in the constant value. It's very important to understand if a function is taking parameters, you have to specify the type. What type of parameter or what type of value this function is expecting to work upon. Now it may happen that I may need to, instead of just printing the message over here, I don't want it to print the message, I just want it to return welcome and along with concatenating the name. So I can say greet with name return, and now because this function is going to return a value, I change this, the value type, that is string. So now this function is that takes parameter and has a return type. So it is going to return string, hence you can just say return, and now this function returns a string, takes the name. Now let me say instead of welcome, I'll say hello and the name. So this is going to greet with the name and return the concatenation result. Now try to understand very carefully. When I call this function greet with name return, now this function takes a value, agreed? Suppose I pass in over here Smith. Now this takes in a value Smith. Now just if I say greet with name return, let me comment out these. Okay, and then let's just focus on this function. Now see, it has greet with name return passing in a value. I should expect it should print hello and something. If I compile, if I execute it again, see the program actually ran, it stopped, but it print nothing. To prove it print nothing, let me add a SOP over here, and instead of this, let me say main starts. If I compile again the same steps for execution, void main. Can you see it does prints main starts, but it doesn't prints hello Smith because there is no SOPLN over here. This function just takes the value, joins in with hello and returns that. So if I want to get the value returned by this function, because this function returns a value of type string, I have to have a variable of type string The variable name can be anything, and then you will be saying SOPLN and print the result. Now if you would notice, let me stop this and let me execute. Can you see now? It says main starts and the result it got was hello Smith. It is able to print hello Smith. So it's very important to understand if a function returns a value, depending on what type is returned, you have to store that value in a variable of same type and then you can print it. Alternatively, we could have also done this. So this greet with name return can be put in inside the println function. Now what's going to happen? Let me change this name and let me give it as Shweta. Now what will happen? This function is going to pass in the value Shweta. It returns hello Shweta, and whatever this function returns, println is able to print that value. So just watch. Again the same steps of execution, right click, main, and can you see now it is able to print hello Shweta because this function returns a value, and what is that? Hello Shweta. Remember, in the println you cannot call greet, so I cannot say this. If I am saying greet the way we did for the greet with name return, if I try to do this and if I compile, you can see my compiler only gives me error and it says void type not allowed here. Means a function returns nothing. There is nothing for this print statement to print. It is a compile time error. So make sure if your function returns nothing, in that case you cannot put that function inside the println. It is an error. So this is how you can create methods. Methods that takes no parameters, no return type, takes parameters, no return type, takes parameters and return type. So you can have function that takes no parameters and has a return type. So I can say something like this. In that case, it's not going to take any value. Maybe it's just printing, it's just returning something. So you may have a scanner here, it takes the input from here, from inside the method and return that. So say for example, I may even do this. So this function then has a scanner, it takes the input from the user and then it returns that back. So yes, you can have this as well. So let me say greet with name 1 so that it compiles fine, and then I can say again the same stuff and greet with name, and the function name is 1 and it is not taking any parameters, so do not pass any values, but it returns something. So let's just execute and see. I can say new and right click, again void main. See, my JVM is waiting for me to enter a value. I say Sia and it prints hello Sia. So you can create functions with these variations. I would suggest please practice a lot for you to be able to get hands-on to the methods. These are very important. In case those who are working with Eclipse, so how do you execute on Eclipse is, I already have the same methods demo and here you can see there is a main method. Now just that when you're running through Eclipse, you need to have a function with the signature public static void main. So if I have the same method greet and if it just says, for example, system.out.println and I'll say welcome guest. Right? Now this method returns nothing, so it will be void. Now if you want to call this method from the main function which is declared as static, if I just try to call greet, it is going to give me an error. So if I say save, you can see it gives an error, cannot make a static reference to non-static method. Don't worry about static and non-static, I will be having a dedicated video on the same. Just I guess 2 to 3 videos down the line, but just for now, just for you to be able to execute methods, just make this as static and have greet, everything else remains the same. You can see when I execute, I do get the output welcome guest. Same way, the way we saw all the other methods, you can do that as well. So I can say greet with name, I can say greet with name return, and let me just say greet with name 1. Now this takes a name as a parameter, and instead of guest, now it is going to say name. This returns and takes a parameter. So again the same stuff, string name instead of guest, this will be name and it returns the value. And because it returns, please make sure to change this return type to string. Now this function again, it has a return type, but it doesn't takes any parameters. So I am just going to say return welcome guest, or if you want to have a scanner, yes, you can do that as well. And instead of this, we can say welcome, and then just call the method. So I can say greet with name, passing in a value. I can say greet with name return because it's returning a value. So I can put inside the system.out.println, remember. So again the same concept. So concepts don't change whether you have a static or non-static function. And then again the same stuff. I'll have greet with name 1. So if I run, you would say it prints welcome guest. Okay, sorry, I guess it has to be println. So you can see welcome guest from this greet function. It goes over here. Greet with name Sia, welcome Sia. It takes Roy, welcome Roy. Now it is waiting for my input. So I say Shalini and it prints welcome Shalini. So just that, those who are using Eclipse for now, just create these methods as static. We will be covering about in details in the upcoming videos. Why do we require static and what's the difference? So with this we come to an end of this video. Happy learning, take care and bye-bye.